This story is titled How Ananse Got a Thin Waist. A long time ago, there was this handsome spider. He had these googly eyes and a big waist. And the reason why is because he loved to eat. Wherever there was food, he was there to get that food. He never really was invited. Instead, he helped himself to whatever was in front of him. Now, one day, his wife decided to fix a delicious meal. Boy, Anansi ate and ate and ate until his belly was full. And would you believe, after he had all of that food, he happened to sniff. His neighbors were cooking just as well. So he decided to help himself on over there and sit down and eat some of their food. Mm, that was good. So every day he had the idea that whenever he smelled food, he would come moving as quickly as possible and to invite himself to their homes to sit down to eat. Now, mind you, his wife was a good cook and she always made something delicious. But it didn't matter because Anansi loved to eat. Yes, he did. He loved to eat. Now, one day, he happened to overhear that there was getting ready to become a food festival. Oh, wow! Anansi was so excited, he couldn't wait to find out when that event was going to happen. That day, someone had announced it was coming up soon. And Anansi just couldn't wait for that day to come. Well, now, the festival wasn't going to start until the fall. But sooner or later, he finally heard the date that it was to begin. Boy, oh boy, he started imagining all the delicious foods that he would be able to eat. And of course, he never shared any of it with anyone else. But anyway, it was a fall, beautiful day. And he overheard that this festival was going to begin on the weekend. So he started planning on how he was going to be able to get to these places. But would you believe? On that weekend, it rained. There was no way there was going to be a food festival. So he was very upset. So then he decided that he would be able to go sooner or later to the different places. But you see now, the villages had decided to have one in the morning and one in the afternoon. But as I told you, that weekend it had rained. But then the next weekend, the sun was shining and it was fall and the leaves were falling down gently and it was a nice cool and windy breeze. Now, his wife was a good cook and many people had requested her to serve something at the festival. But unfortunately, she just couldn't remember the time, so she was unable to tell Anansi. So Anansi was very furious. He couldn't understand why no one would be willing to tell him that the festival would begin at a certain time. So instead, he decided to sit down and take a nap. Then he started dreaming. He dreamed that he would be able to go and enjoy himself at the festivals. But the only way that he could do this is that he would get a rope But he would have to find several people to help him tie this rope around his waist so that he was able to get to the villagers. So he was so excited when he woke up. And to his surprise, his sister and his family had come to visit. And he was so glad to see his niece and nephew. And then he decided that his niece and nephew could help him get to these festivals at ease. And so he approached his niece and nephew and sat down and told them his idea. Now, his niece and nephew loved him very dearly, and they really, really wanted to help their favorite uncle. So they had a plan, and that plan was to find a rope, a thick, heavy rope, and tie it around their uncle's waist. They quickly found the rope and tied it around Ananse's waist. Now, Ananse had told them that when they see the food being spread out on the table, to yank the rope. So his nephew went to the left and his niece went to the right. Even though the villages were supposed to have it at different times of the day, each village decided to have their party at the same time. So, again, when that nephew saw the food being spread out, he was to pull the rope. And when his niece saw the food, she was to pull the rope. So, all of a sudden, when his nephew noticed that they were spreading out the table with food, he started yanking and pulling his uncle to the left. But then the niece saw them spreading out the table and she pulled him to the right. When they saw their uncle, they were in shock. He no longer had googly eyes or a big belly. He had the smallest eyes and the thinnest waist. Oh boy, Ananse didn't get to eat any meals that day. You see now, the spider's eyes and waist remained thin from that day on. And from now on, Ananse, the spider, is still handsome, but he has a very small eyes and a thin waist. But would you believe he never stopped having a huge appetite?